Some of you with philosophical interest will be bound to think, hey, your argument from reversed reality looks a lot like the argument from the experience machine. And you would be correct if you think that. The argument from the experience machine is, similarly to my last argument, an attempt to show that the maximum amount of pleasure possible is not a scenario that would leave us better off than before. Thus, this video will be kind of a continuation of my earlier one, since the arguments are quite similar. In order not to bore you to death, I will try as much as possible not to repeat myself. But some repetition may be bound to happen. And with that said, I hereby present my case against hedonism, the experience machine. In 1974, American philosopher Robert Nozick proposed what would come to be a very famous thought experiment. Imagine a team of super-duper genius scientists invented a machine capable of simulating any experience you wanted. You won't know that you're plugged into the machine if you choose to plug in, and you can plug into the machine with 100% certainty of the machine not malfunctioning. Additionally, you would choose beforehand for how long you want to be plugged in. 1 hour, 1 year, or perhaps your whole life. Would you plug in? Every person is bound to have different intuitions about this, though most people at least hesitate to step into the machine for one reason or another. However, if you are a hedonist, then there is no choice but to admit that to plug into the machine for the rest of your life is the best possible thing for you, unless you want to be incoherent. So why would anything else be incoherent? Well, since the machine can provide any possible experience, then that includes the maximally pleasurable experiences, which, according to the hedonist, provides the best possible life for a person. Now, Nozick had no interest of entering such a machine. First, because he believed that it was valuable for people to actually do certain things, and not just having the experience of doing them. Nozick does admit, however, that the reasons why we want to do certain things instead of just having the experience of doing them remains somewhat unclear. Nozick's second reason for not plugging into the machine has to do with personal identity. Is it not the case that we want to be a certain way, developing our virtues and expanding our personal character? As the man himself says, "Someone floating in a tank is an indeterminate blob. There is no answer to the question of what a person is like who has been long in the tank. Is he courageous, kind, intelligent, witty, loving? It's not merely that it's difficult to tell. There is no way that he is. Plugging into the machine is a kind of suicide. It will seem to some trapped by a picture that nothing about what we are like can matter except as it gets reflected in our experiences. But should it be surprising that what we are is important to us? Why should we be concerned only with how our time is filled, but not with what we are?" Nozick's third and final reason for not plugging into the machine is because he thinks it limits us to what he calls a man-made reality. There is no contact with any deeper reality than humanity can construct. And since this man-made reality would be extraordinarily lackluster in depth compared to the real reality, he therefore concludes that this is another reason for not plugging into the machine. Though the experience of a contact with a deeper reality can be stimulated, many persons desire to leave themselves open to such contact and to a plumbing of deeper significance. These three reasons were enough for Nozick to abstain from ever plugging into the machine, and the argument follows as such. Premise 1. If hedonism is true, then the best possible thing for me is to plug into the machine. Premise 2. The best possible thing for me isn't to plug into the machine. Conclusion. Hedonism is false. The key premise here is again premise 2, as we saw in the argument from reversed reality. Nozick supported this premise with the 3 reasons stated above, which is enough to at least convince a lot of people. Also, in accordance with the argument from reversed reality, it seems that the only way the hedonist can refute this argument is to accept the uncomfortable conclusion that the experience machine really would be the best option for us. The hedonist's reasons for this are usually claims such as people are afraid to step into the machine because they are afraid that the machine will malfunction, or human beings have a bias towards what we already have and therefore incorrectly rejects what we could have. Though there are some truth to these claims, I don't find them nearly as convincing as Nozick's reasons for not stepping into the machine. But there's more too. Personally, I just don't think that the people that object to this argument take the idea of maximum amount of pleasure seriously. The hedonist has to first accept that the machine would have to produce the maximum amount of pleasure for the experience to be considered the best one. They also have to accept the fact that since pain is an intrinsic bad for people, then the machine can't simulate any pain at all. The machine is thus bound to produce only pleasure and no pain. We can ask ourselves then, what kind of experiences could such a machine produce, if we believe this is the best life for us? Or maybe even better, what kind of experiences couldn't such a machine produce? What do we think of ordinarily when we think about experiences we want? Maybe the excitement of climbing a mountain, jumping out of an airplane, parachuting down, reading an exciting book, traveling around the world, or learning that guitar solo you always wanted to learn. Could the machine produce such experiences? Well, think about it. What is climbing a mountain without the cold wind against your cheek? The exhaustion from walking several days in a row? What is parachuting without the fear of death or the adrenaline when the airplane doors open? What is reading an exciting book if you can't relate to the difficulties of the main character? What is traveling around the world without the distress of not knowing the native language, or trying out food you end up not liking? What is learning a guitar solo without the frustration of doing it wrong 1,000 times in a row before finally succeeding? What is the story of our life then, really? Where then is the beauty of life, the artistic element, the dynamic engagement with what is yet to be discovered, the religious contact with some sort of deeper reality? Where is it? In Brave New World, Aldous Huxley portrays a universe with practically no pain. One of the main protagonists, John, is talking to the world controller running the society. The world controller openly admits, that's the price we have to pay for stability. You've got to choose between happiness and what people used to call high art. We've sacrificed the high art. After a lengthy discussion, John responds, but I don't want comfort. I want God. I want poetry. I want real danger. I want freedom. I want goodness. I want sin. In fact, the controller says, you're claiming the right to be unhappy. All right then, I'm claiming the right to be unhappy. Well, that means the right to grow old and ugly and impotent, the right to have syphilis and cancer, the right to have too little to eat, the right to be lousy, the right to live in constant apprehension of what might happen tomorrow, the right to catch typhoid, the right to be tortured by unspeakable pains of every kind. After a long silence, John responds, I claim them all. And with that said, I rest my case.